Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Play20. We're at the Speaker's Corner, and you're watching us on Channel 2, Play on Stage. At the Speaker's Corner, we have some contributors, and today we have three guests. We have Ahmad, we have Graham, and we have Anca. And they are showing us some games they were able to create, and if you have any questions to our guests, then feel free to share them with us in the YouTube comment section. So, Ahmad, and Graham, we start with your project, Liquidative, and you have a little video for us, which we're going to show right now.
На Чернобыльской атомной электростанции.
Товарищами, как они...
Radio transmission, connected and working. To summarize, you've been chosen because of your expertise in locating valve systems, and reaching those water tanks are our last hope in containing this disaster. If you don't drain those water tanks, a steam explosion will create a radioactive fallout that will render Europe uninhabitable. It is a perilous journey to those valves, and if anything happens to you, we will guarantee your families are taken care of in your stead. Your country and I thank you for your selfless service. It's up to you three now.
Wow, great. So, Ahmad, you want to show your screen? And
Sure.
yeah, there you go. The stage is yours.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Hello, everyone. I'm Ahmad, the director, producer, and project lead of Liquidators, and I'm accompanied by Graham Southern, our composer. And today we want to talk about our overall design decisions for this project, where it started, what came out to be, and what our overall purpose and experience goal was with this project. So this project started as my passion for very hardcore games, and the reason for that is because those games created a experience for me that normal, traditional, or most of the games have not. Uh, and like for my master's project, I wanted to recreate that tensity and understand why those games created those experiences while others did not. And those games are like Demon Souls and XCOM. Uh, so like one thing I noticed these games did that others did not. They did not have any checkpoints, or they did not have any spamming save system, and anything you did, any decision you did was permanent throughout the whole experience. For XCOM, it had a hardcore mode that you had to select, and that mode really created a phenomenal experience for me, while the normal one did not. And again, because of that permanence, it made me think twice about all my decisions. It wasn't back of my head where I'm gonna fail and reset a save and it's gonna be normal again. And I wanted to explore that in my master's project. And at the same time, my father was an environmental engineer, and he always talked about the Chernobyl nuclear disaster and what the workers did, and like uh, what they had to go through and how critical it was for the entire world, especially Europe. Uh, and like these two ideas just collided together, and I wanted to create one of the missions, one of the many important missions that the liquidators of Chernobyl went through. And we chose the one with the where three of the plant workers. This is all based on real events. Three nuclear plant workers are chosen to go underneath the destroyed reactor to open up the water tanks or to drain them so the core doesn't create a steam explosion and just spread a radioactive fallout throughout Europe. So that was a phenomenal story. They were successful in their mission, and I wanted to recreate that. And in order to do that justice, to do their mission justice, we had to create something that was just incredibly tense and uneasy. And the first thing we had to do was uh, like every second is automatically saved, so everything is permanent. There is no returning back. Everything you do, you have to carry on and make your decisions like cautiously. Every moment is important. So you start as one at a time character, and you can choose which one, and you have to explore this reactor and find and adapt to it, and work your way around it. You don't know what's coming. Everything is unpredictable, and like since we have a system where it automatically saves every second, we also have to make the game fair. Like if someone like dies and they can't, there's no way for them to return or undo one of their mistakes, then they would just quit. They would rage quit and they don't want to continue anymore. So we have a system where you can go and retrieve your previous comrades that have become unconscious due to radiation. Uh, on top of that, we also needed a map which is not just linear, because if you lose one guy further down the road, like you and you start all the way in the beginning, that's not good flow. Like it will be very long for them to go all this way that they've done with the previous person. So our level design is very interconnected with verticality and a lot of shortcuts. So you can open up these shortcuts and take these shortcuts to find your way around and cut your ways short. What this level design also does is you have multiple paths to take. It's very open space, and in order to create that uneasy or like fear of unknown, you don't know what's coming. Every area had to be varied with its own like unique encounters. And like we have unique encounters in each one, where in one of them the atmosphere radiation is so high that your flashlight dies and you have to use the proximity meter of your Geiger counter to navigate in the dark, which they did in real life. Another one, you have to find your way to not be like exposed to the elephant's foot, which like they had similar experience to that, and we adapted it based on the famous elephant's foot and put it there. And they have to like find out their environment pathways to the safe environment pathways to go around the elephant's foot. And the other one, they have to be careful not to get drowned by broken cooling systems. And all these gameplay elements come together. They like it's not each working individually. They all like work in unity to create this experience of going into the unknown, and every moment like you have to decide what your next step is or what your next move is. And judging by our playtesters, they definitely felt that experience. Uh, One other thing we had was the art style, and for the art style, we mainly looked up the actual reference pictures of the destroyed reactor. These are real life photos, and with their own like color technology of the time, these were the results. And when I saw this, I'm like, this is just perfect for the aesthetic style of that time, like being inside the reactor. And it has this like '90s pre-rendered like looks to it, with the dithering, with the pixelization, and like 8-bit colors, as you can see here. And uh, we definitely we studied these reference photos for our art style, and we created something similar to this. Now, I do recommend it, like if you go and see it for yourself, because through compression, it's like it loses some of that elements. It's not as apparent. But once you play it in game or look up your screenshots like on your own monitor, it's like it will be a bit different. And this is what we wanted to like achieve. One other benefit this type of art style had was because we're a very small team of just student volunteers. Uh, this allowed us to make the overall game like much faster and much easier, because we can't do AAA quality graphics with incredibly like high quality models and textures, and this helped us out a lot. And this is the elephant's foot. Uh, now, aside from that, and another added element is the sound effects and the soundtracks. And for that, we didn't want to just do a normal soundtrack like all the other games do, where they're non-diegetic and they just play and to give a sort of mood. What we did was we studied some of my favorite games like Quake and Silent Hill. When I listen to their soundtrack, they're usually like not non-diegetic, so it's coming from like off screen, but it sounds like it's coming from in-game objects. Uh, uh, what I told Graham was like, Graham, I just want sound effects within the environment in combination together to create the soundtrack while you're there. And like the whole purpose of that was to like make it more immersive. And I can hand it off to Graham to show off an example or like explain how he created those sound effects and soundtrack.
Yeah. Would you like me to share my screen now so I can do that?
Sure.
Or should I go into it a little bit first?
Oh, it's fine. Just share.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I will, let me share screen. And see. So I'm loading up the example now. Okay. Loading up the demonstration. Okay, so I'm clicking share. So here is something we did. I'm going to play in a little bit, but just to give you an example, to tell you what the context is. This is in the elephant's foot room, and we wanted to, because there's no clear antagonist in this game, ostensibly, we wanted to treat the environment itself as if it were a character. And to that end, I wanted to give, we are using mechanical sounds. It's an industrial soundtrack, but I wanted to give all of these industrial movements the cadence and pulse of human breathing to give you the illusion, okay, it's a machine, but it has the characteristics of something that's living. You want to feel like you're in the belly of a beast, so to speak. And that's why when you'll hear in this soundtrack, you'll hear some kind of like weird pulsing noises, but you don't really know what it is. We really wanted to venture into like uncanny valley territory with this. So here we go. This is an example. So you're going to hear some pulses. You're going to hear some as the soundtrack increases. It's to simulate you getting closer to this elephant's foot. The elephant's foot has this really screaming elephant's noise. We literally wanted to make it sound like an elephant, kind of, you know, like some sick joke almost. Here we go. And yeah, that's that. Not sure to what extent you could hear through this stream, but that's the idea. It's musical in a rhythmic sense, in the sense that we have the alarms towards that later half. These peaks here, those are some alarm sounds, and I timed that to be in sync with the pulsing. So it's ambiguous between sound design. It is sound effects essentially, but they're in sync in kind of a musical fashion, and that was what we wanted to take that mind tricks that the Silent Hill soundtrack has on you, and we wanted to take that one step even more literally by literally having the objects in the game kind of interact together in a musical fashion.
And all of this is very dynamic. So based on where you are in the map or in the room, based on where you're moving or how close you are, these change. And like for every person, it will be a bit different, like the experience they'll have. And like
Right.
the ultimate, yeah, and the ultimate goal with this project was to create it as immersive as possible. To show how critical or important this mission was, what horrifying like events these actual works had to go through to prevent one of the worst disasters from becoming uh, unfixable. And like in order to do that, we have the game mechanics like it's permanent. Uh, it's like there's a lot of unknown. You don't know what's gonna come. You have to have your guards up, but we also make sure they're fair. Like we give a lot of environmental warnings beforehand, so you'll know that something is coming up, and you can. It's not like jump scares or something that suddenly kills you. You always have a build up to that, and you have to be ready. It only happens to you if you're not paying attention, so it will be fair. Uh, uh, our game never pauses like real life. It didn't pause. Like if you press the escape menu, the game keeps going. If you quit the game and go back into the game, it starts exactly where you quit. So like all these elements, our goal was to create the experience these workers went through. And one other thing that a lot of people mentioned was uh, it's a what we created is a horror game without any monsters or jump scares or anything like following you around. And yeah, people really liked that. It was very unique for them. So, and the last thing I would say, like this project would absolutely not be possible without our wonderful and talented team. So I wish they could all be here, but I program and yeah, this project is like possible because of them. And overall, final saying is uh, our project is dedicated to liquidators. We're not getting anything ourselves. We're not charging anything. We have a link for donation that we found. Like the best charity we found was the Children of Chernobyl charity, and we've linked that in Steam. And
Yeah.
like uh, a lot of people don't know about these workers and what they went through and how important their mission was. And hopefully we can raise awareness with this project. And that is all.
Well, thank you very much, you two. I think I mean, not to be a fanboy or anything, but this is right up my personal alley. I think it's just like having this horror, and it's in the 80s, and based on real events. I mean, there are not that many games that are based on real events, so I wonder how is it, how do you combine gameplay with real events?
Oh, that's a great question. A lot of the designs we got for our game is from exact experience they went through, and we tried to recreate that. We didn't like come up with like things to ourselves, and like it was critical to know what they went through. Especially like one of our main events that happens is when you're like navigating between very dangerous hazards and your flashlight just suddenly bursts. Like uh, we kind of recreated that from their experience where their flashlights went out and they had to feel their way through the destroyed reactor. Another one for the elephant's foot, they said that they turned one corner and their guard counter went like off the charts and almost broke. So like they had to run past that and be really careful around that thing. And they did like they glanced a peek at it and it looked like a cone and it was bubbling and really hot. It was a corium that that melted through, and that like inspired us for the elephant's foot, which like is a real object. They didn't encounter that; it was another floor, but we integrated it into it. We like the pictures we saw really inspired us with the layouts of our environment and level design. So, uh, like that made our life really easy, getting all these real life information and putting it in gameplay. Um, so like yeah. Aside from that, um, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I was
all.
wondering how did you do the research? I mean, did you watch some videos or are you reading or how did you?
Yes.
Uh,
So like we proposed our project before the Chernobyl show was announced, and
mhm,
there weren't any materials about it. There are no movies about it. There were
mhm,
some documentaries. This is all before the Chernobyl show, and
mhm,
like the materials we found was some random. So I was just searching through Google Images like day and night, and we found this random repository of a Ukrainian website, and it had like all these images that like you couldn't see anywhere else, and that was like very helpful. Um, there were some books that were really rare and like not many people knew about it that had some of these interviews of the experience of the divers and others and what they went through. It was just, and there was also a lot of misinformation too. We had to weed through those also. So it was hard, but like we were dedicated and we could find some really good material that absolutely helped us with our design goal and
wow.
overall experience. Yeah.
And Graham, I was wondering, the sounds you showed us, they were really eerie, and I think it really, I mean, if you close your eyes and you just listen to it, you can feel, and you have this image, Ahmad, from these pictures you showed us, you can really feel this tense atmosphere. Graham, what are the tools you use to create a sound like that?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, sure. And I forgot I still had that on. Um, yeah, so a bunch of different sources. For the elephant's foot itself, we wanted it, to sound obviously like an elephant, but not quite at the same time. So I actually used this sample from this originally from this sample library that's like a bunch of bamboo shoots and stuff, and it was like this sample of like scraping the bamboo, but it was like manipulated in such a way that it created this really annoying like sound. And then I just used pitch. I used like the stretch function in Cubase to just stretch it out, and then I pitched it up, added all this chorus and reverb onto it,
Mhm.
so it just sounds totally different than what it originally was. um, for a couple. Oh, and there's this other level. It wasn't in this particular example, but I think it's worth mentioning. Um, there's this level where there's this water draining everywhere, and Ahmad was telling me, when I was sending him samples, he says, I want it to sound like a garbage disposal almost. And so what I did was I literally took a sample of a garbage disposal, and then I just applied a ton of like reverb. I down pitched it. I pitched it down by like 12 semitones or so, to make it even more evil sounding. And then basically, just kept doing that, rinsing and repeating until you get this demonic sound. Then you're not like quite sure where it's from originally. So
Mhm.
yeah, that was my process with that.
Wow. So Liquidus is it's out now, or when did you release it? Last month.
We released it September 30th for free on Steam and itch.io. And
Wow.
yeah, it's already available. We have about I think 18 to 19,000 units shipped.
Wow.
So yeah, and it's free. So like, yeah, everyone, if you have a chance, if you like this subject, yeah, definitely give it a try.
I think it's very interesting. I'm already sold on it, I guess. I mean, you have so many games like Fallout and all these different games which use like a nuclear bomb or these topics like radioactivity, but they're using it in a different way, and it's still horror, but I think your approach was being realistic, and I think that's really interesting. And yeah, thank you so much for being with us today. I
Thank you so
hope
much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
So thank you guys very much. We're heading to our next guest, which Anca, you're also talking about sound design, but in a different.
Hi.
Hi, Anca. So, oh, we have two guests, right? We have. So you're talking about sound design as well?
Yeah, I mean, my project is an audio first, as I call it, VR experience. So I will talk about the sound design a lot. Um, I also have some sound files at the end if I have time to play them, but only if there's time after that. So we'll see.
Sure. If any of you have some questions you want to want to ask Anca, then just go ahead and type it in the YouTube comment section, and then we'll pass it through. Okay, Anca, stage is yours.
All right. Thanks. Yeah, gonna share my screen first of all. You see that, I guess. Yeah. All right. So hi, I'm Anca Tutescu. I study Master Sound Vision at HAWE Hamburg University, and I'm here today with my buddy Karl Lagerfeld because he's a big fan, and he kind of wanted to be here for moral support and stuff. And I wanted to, have a little talk about what I've been doing on this project with my team of students. So I'm in charge of an artistic research student collaboration project. This is involving like kind of three like institutions: HAWE Sound Lab, the HAWE Games Lab, and HFMT Hamburg University. And the project's goal is for us to create a VR music experience starting from the sound side. So, in recent years, we've been seeing a lot of like new spatial audio tools emerge. And they're also getting integrated into the game engines slowly. And so I thought that this is the right time to try to work with something like that. Since I also kind of have an audio background, I thought, this is the like perfect master project for me personally. So we applied for a bit of funding and we got that with the help of my supervisors. So that's super cool. And we're kind of 6 months in, so this is kind of just like a midterm, so to speak. But I can talk to you guys about what we have so far. First of all, I want to talk about like how does somebody make, well, from my personal experience and so on, how do you start making an interactive experience starting from the sound side? Well, that meant for us that the sound artists have to make a big part of the team. And then we have to think about sound interactions and the music, the aesthetics, sound-wise first, and then come in with the visuals, the scenarios, stuff like that. And for game design, I guess that can be a bit tricky because it's generally easier to come up with like a scenario visually or explain it in visual terms, start with a mood board, put in pictures, stuff like that. It's also tricky if you want to make something that's not necessarily just mechanics based, because yeah, there are plenty of sound games that are mechanics based, but we also kind of wanted it to be, um, yeah, a bit more of an experience than that. So not so much just mechanics, let's say. It's more like an exploration. Yeah, and we also tried to be a bit original to kind of make something different than what's out there. Um, like on the market, there's a bunch of VR sound apps already that have like a musical premise. I mean, yeah, some of them are like uh, tutorials for how to learn how to play the piano in VR. This one in the lower corner, or they have like concerts in VR that you can take part in and listen to. I don't know, John Legend or whoever. um, there's also like sound boxing, and you can like punch sound elements on beats. Yeah, Beat Saber, of course, you know. Um, or some of them like make kind of a recreation in VR of a DAW. And these were really cool inspiration sources for us. But yeah, we wanted to go with something more abstract and experimental and exploration based, um, in which like a world in which the elements would be musical in some way. That there's always kind of a musical response or interaction. Um, and we thought that it's not the space where the player generates all the sounds. That there's a composer who made some music for this world, but the player can change aspects of it, manipulate it, or experience it from different perspectives, and to some extent also compose some melodies and fragments themselves. So it's kind of like an open space playground, maybe a combination of an open space playground and the music video. Yeah, in quotes. Yeah. So in order to make this kind of help design such a space, I want to talk about the design pillars that I eventually came to. So yeah, first off, I thought about something that's called cross-modal mapping in scientific terms. This is basically the association that we have between sound and other features like shape or color or movement of an object, or like the size of it, the texture, how it feels, how smooth it is, or how rough it is to the touch. Um, and this looks at the connection that humans have between different senses when you perceive something. There's, for example, humans tend to associate colors and pitch in a way that higher pitches are associated with brighter colors and lower pitches with darker colors, stuff like that. So you can use findings like that to meet or break the player's expectations. Yeah, I also took a lot of inspiration from the human form. You can see this really really great for me inspirational picture, this architectural space that's shaped like a human head. Um, yeah, so inspiration from nature, from architecture that's influenced by human elements, because I wanted to create a space that looks quite familiar to people, and then this would be easier for them to get familiar to, and then you have a lot of opportunities to yeah, have more weird stuff happen, basically. um, yeah, and the architecture, the acoustics of the virtual spaces that you're in also play a really important part in our app, because I wanted the player to to be able to experience the music and the soundscapes in the game from like different perspectives. That you use the walls for stuff like occlusion and reverb and yeah, the materials. I mean, yeah, this is nothing novel, but I think it's interesting to experience music that way too, that it's kind of, it feels like you're actually listening to it in that space from like behind a wall or around the corner or so, like that you can stick your head somewhere and there's it sounds different inside that smaller space than it does in the bigger cave and so on. And also using stuff like architecture. Sometimes we actually take away the architecture, which is like the opposite of this. Like we created a section in this level where basically the visuals blur and you don't really see the space you're walking through anymore. But the sound moves and is the only thing that can guide you through. So you have to kind of like listen and kind of realize where it's coming from and so on. Yeah, I also want to talk a bit more about other aspects that we implemented and we looked at to guide our decisions. Big one is the sound and the connection between sound and motion. Because sound and motion, I feel they're very connected. You know, it's all about the vibration and stuff. And we also looked at even how film does it. Like in cinema, when you have a static camera shot, for example, the directors don't just give you like a static picture to look at. There are kind of small movements and changes in the picture. You see at least a bit of a change in the light or in the leaves that are moving with the wind and so on. So and yeah, sound is also tied to that. So there's you're never presented with a dead space. So we wanted to use this information. And also, again, if you're in a space that doesn't move, but there is sound that plays, it can be really confusing for the players to tell where it's coming from and associate it to something. Again, speaking in film, if you have this static picture shot, but there's sound playing, generally the trick that people use is to move the object across the screen, the object that's actually creating the sound. So like imagine like you have a fixed camera view and there's a car making noise. You might not notice where the car is unless you actually have the car driving through the highway or whatever. So basically this is about the fact that people do like object localization the best when visuals and audio are kind of tied together. So in order to not confuse players with too many sounds that are not apparently tied to anything, we decided to give the like most elements in the world at least some amount of motion, from very small to quite like amplified when they actually emit sound, and we actually are tracking how loud the sound is, and we're changing basically the amount of motion they do. So I have some inspirational like animations here. So yeah, this is stuff we kind of looked at in nature or in some of our favorite media. We looked at basically these kind of wavy motions and even stuff as simple as raindrops, because you have ripples when the impact strikes, and it can be a very sonic picture. And this picture up here, the one from the Nausicaa Ghibli film, this was a big inspiration because we actually um, made some musical elements like that. We made these worms, uh, um, and you can touch them. It's a really somehow fun mechanic in VR that you have these worms growing around the space, and you can touch them, and they wiggle to the touch. And then they also play some musical fragments, and then their wiggliness kind of responds to the sound. Um, so basically, it's a combination of the rigged bones and gravity, and also the sound, how loud it is when it's playing. That combined kind of creates this motion. And yeah, if you hit a bunch of these in there around you, you get these nice interactions. um, right. So yeah, I can also mention another like interactable that we have in the game. Um, yeah. Again, nature inspiration. I thought about a really simple but compelling way to do musical interactions is to make a sequencer. But how do you make a sequencer that's a bit different or interesting? And well, I thought a tree kind of makes sense because a tree grows in length, and you can kind of pull it and decide where it goes, and it's like in 3D space. So you could use this grid, this imaginary grid, to kind of set acoustic parameters. Yeah, so basically we came up with this design that's a tree with eyes. We have the big eye on the tree that's like the volume fader for the whole thing, because maybe you get tired of it and you want to just turn it off. And yeah, the smaller eyes are basically where the notes play. You can also turn those on and off. Of course, that's kind of why they're eyes, I guess, if that makes sense. I guess I thought it does. And you can also like pull on these leaves, so you can extend the branches and drop more eyes somewhere. So yeah, basically, and these notes are going to just keep looping, depending on how long the branch has grown. So, and you also can rearrange it. Yeah, it's a lot of these drag and drop interactions with it. Yeah, so and also like the pitch is mapped to the height. So yeah, the higher you drop these eyes, the higher the note is gonna be. And like the X and Y coordinates, we map them to effects like delay, reverb, and so on. So it's like you're creating this musical tree. It's like your custom little creation in there. Yeah, it's also kind of shaped like this angular thing because it's actually meant to be as a grid. So because we actually map these notes to some scales, and this grid is kind of telling you intuitively that it's kind of a scale. All right, and yeah, what did we do music-wise? I mean, we're like I said, we're going for a bit of an experimental music approach, and because we used Unreal Engine, we are able to also do some stuff like dynamic sound, so sound synthesis. For example, this tree only plays notes that are synthesizers. Well, I mean, we have a version that plays fixed, like pre-recorded samples, and we have a version of them which play synthesizer notes. Which is kind of cool that we can actually already do that in a game engine, and it actually sounds pretty good. So yeah, and we do stuff like modulation, like granular synthesis. We take MIDI sequences and map them to different music scales. Like our composer even likes trying some microtonal stuff out, so he's got the chance to do that. But yeah, of course, we're also doing the typical music, like game soundtrack stuff, like music layers that we bring in with random pitch and amplitude factors and so on. Um, yeah, and I could, yeah, I mean, this is like I said, it's a preliminary view into the project. I don't really have like a demo for you guys, unfortunately, but yeah, I mean, in the next 6 months, we're probably gonna put it somewhere like Itch or Steam, and I hope a lot of you are gonna get to try it, because it's gonna be really, really weird. Like we're definitely going for kind of whimsical, quirky, yeah, experimental, fun stuff. Um, and yeah, I've got my team with me here. They didn't all want to share pictures, so I just put their favorite engine in there. You know, um, I kept asking the whole week, but you know they're camera shy, I guess. So, um, and yeah, if we have some more time, I could also play like a demo version of one of the tracks that we are adding to the game. What do you think? Do we have time for that? It's like
Yeah, sure we
2
do.
minutes.
Yes, we have time.
Yeah, just a word of warning. This is like me kind of singing in there. Um, I did some weird stuff with my voice, so judge me as much as you will. I don't know. Um, yeah, let me see. What do I have to share here? This share computer sound. And yeah. Okay, so these next 3 minutes, you can just enjoy some nice ambient music, I guess. Yeah, so that was a little demo. um, yeah, so thanks for listening, and I'm open to any questions.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you very much, Anka. Um, I think your approach remind me a bit of Tetris Effect. Have you played it?
Actually, no, not
Oh,
familiar
okay.
with that one.
Interesting. No, I think it's like Tetris, just on PSVR, and
Oh,
then
okay.
every time you stack them up, then the music differs a bit. But yeah, maybe that's something you
Oh,
might check
cool. Yeah, I should check that out then. Yeah.
out. But we have a
And
question from our community, and Karin Liao, she asked you. You mentioned different universities and departments involved in your project.
yeah.
What were the individual contributions from each side, and how did the collaboration work out?
Yeah, maybe I should share screen again then so I can talk about my team over here. Yeah. Um, yeah, so we are from like that's right, three departments, two universities. I kind of represent the Tonlabor from Have Hamburg. And then yes, my contribution is just well, it's project leads. I also do some of the sound and music and concept, so I'm trying to just kind of get this get this supervised in every way. I don't know. I'm yeah, doing my best there. And then we have from Ohio FMT University, Jan Vickmann. He's a master multimedia composition, so he's like the lead composer, and yeah, so he's in charge of most of the music and sound implementation, like blueprinting, sound, uh, yeah, doing a lot of work there. Um, then we have Maria Vininga. She's from Have Games Lab, games master, the 2D concept artist. Yeah, so she's kind of designing a lot of the sound, the environment and
Hmm.
elements and so on. Um, and then we have these three guys also from the Games Master who are actually, they form another team called well, Team Lost Sector. They're making their own game in parallel too that they got funding for. And
Wow.
yeah, they're real pros at Unreal Engine and stuff like that. Um, Artyom is doing interaction design, concept development. Charlie is doing a lot like of the programming and implementation and stuff. And Valentin Fischer, he's doing 3D modeling, materials, developing interactions as well. So yeah, that's our team, and we also have support from actually our three supervisors. Let's say Thomas Goene, who's the professor in charge of the Tonlabor. Konstantina Orlanda too. She's from HFMT. And actually, Mike Helfrich, he's also our assistant from the Games Lab side, and he's also there to support us.
Hmm.
So yeah, we're kind of like a medium-sized team at this point already. We're also
Hmm.
gonna get some help from some people in the industry soon with like
Wow.
sound, technical sound stuff. So yeah.
Oh, sounds
um,
great. What do you think makes I was wondering what makes the combination of VR and audio different than I mean, the more usual combination of just having a screen in front of you and audio. What is the certain difference? What do you think as a consumer?
well, yeah, I think it's a pretty huge difference because you're actually, it's your own, you're first person as it can be. Your actual body is in a different space, and that just, I think that changes everything. You're no longer in this 2D screen situation, trying to give you some depth, but you're still not fully in there. When you're in VR, you can actually use your hands. You can crouch. You can lay on the floor. And actually, I had some some testers come in, and they were actually like really laying down on the floor to kind of look up at the trees that they had made, or one of them also was like climbing up on a table that was in the office because he wanted to get up there and see how it looks from over there. And yeah, it's totally different. It's so much more dynamic and yeah, and that's I think why also with the sound it's actually you can have so much more immersive sound experience from that because you're using kind of all your senses to interact with it.
So, how was the collaboration the past months due to the situation we have right now?
Um, yeah, actually, we were kind of lucky because we still somehow managed to meet up in person for a lot of the time, which yeah, it was kind of tricky sometimes, but we were going in an office space that Have put at our disposal, and yeah, we managed to do a lot of the development in person. Now again, we have to go into lockdown. You know,
Mhm.
can't help it. But I guess that we started in May. We did a bit remote work too, but actually mostly in person. And yeah, I think that that's the best way to do it. Um, yeah, I mean with masks too and stuff like that, but still we kind of managed. Let's see what the next months bring though.
Yeah. Well,
But at least now we have most ideas down, so now it's easier to do stuff remote.
hmm yeah, maybe you just can put the VR headset on and then you're all together again, just in a different
We
place
don't even
in
all
the
have
cloud.
VR headsets yet, you know, that's the problem. We have to get some for
Yeah,
at
they're
least
quite
some of us
expensive. Okay, well,
from the
Anca,
uni.
thank you very, very much for being a part of the Speakers Corner this year, and
My pleasure.
I hope your game will be finished soon.
Thank you so
And
much.
yes, well, thank you to all your contributors, and wir machen gleich weiter mit Nina und Manu, die schauen sich die Workshops an. Und falls ihr den auch nochmal schreiben wollt, dann geht ganz schnell rüber zum Channel 1 ins Studio und wir hören uns später wieder in der Speakers Corner. Es geht hier weiter um 13 Uhr und jetzt geht's weiter mit Nina und Manu. Ciao.